Adam Schefter has revealed that the Minnesota Vikings will be getting calls about franchise quarterback JJ Mccarthy, and this would be perfect for the New York Jets because they could potentially get the franchise quarterback that they're looking for. What's up, guys? I'm Matt Long. Welcome to Jets Digest. Hopping directly into the video here. Per ESPN's Adam Schefter, the expectation is that teams will definitely call the Vikings this offseason to inquire about McCarthy's availability. JJ McCarthy, of course, the national championship winning quarterback at Michigan. The reason why the New York Jets would want him, because one, he's young. Two, he has better quarterback traits than the quarterbacks in this draft. He's got a really strong arm and he's athletic. He is a developmental prospect, but like I said, he's young, so that's okay. Right now, the New York Jets don't have a clear plan on what their future is at the quarterback position. We aren't sure that the 7th overall pick in the draft is going to be high enough to get a quarterback in this year's draft, as well as the quarterback prospects in this year's draft are not guaranteed to be anything really, really good. And they're not sure things to be franchise quarterbacks going through in the future. JJ McCarthy would be a really good lottery ticket in terms of a guy who could be the starting quarterback for the New York Jets for years to come. He, like I said, he has the tools to become a quality starting quarterback. There's no guarantees because this is a guy who struggled to read defenses at Michigan, the system on that team that Jim Harbaugh ran for him. Yes, it was run heavy, but more importantly in the passing game, the play action simplified reads for him. So he has a lot to learn when it comes to reading full field NFL reads and real NFL defenses. He's going to have a lot to learn when it comes to the NFL. But this is a guy who, according to interviews at the Combine and through the pre-draft process, he is a smart guy. So we have to imagine that he will be able to learn this type of stuff that he needs to learn. The Minnesota Vikings, of course, traded up with the New York Jets to go get him 10th overall in a stacked quarterback class, which is a stark contrast to this year's quarterback class, which only features Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, the only two quarterbacks with first-round grades on them, according to most people. We've seen reports about the New York Jets wanting to draft a quarterback in the first round. Now, they would either have to trade up to get that quarterback, which would be Shedeur or Cam Ward, or they would have to reach on a surprise quarterback that we don't know who that is. And after the Michigan game I think the game was on Tuesday, I can't even imagine. Milroe has to be off the table at this point in the first round. Probably not even coming out this year. He compares really well with Jalen Hurts, but Jalen Hurts was a second-round pick as well, and Jalen Hurts was better in college than Jalen Milroe was, even if Jalen Milroe was more expensive. We, of course, need JJ McCarthy or a younger quarterback because Aaron Rodgers only has 1 year left maximum with the New York Jets. If he decides to come back this year, there's a report floating around coming from U Stadium that Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers have a fractured relationship with the front office. This sounds like this report could be true, but U Stadium is not a real source. That's not something that we are going to be putting a huge amount of stock in right now. And when it comes to Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers, whether they will be coming back next year or not, I would wait for real news from a real source before actually locking it into your head whether you think they're going to come back or not. One thing that is important about that dynamic between those two players is if Rodgers is back, Davante Adams will be back. And if Rodgers is not back, Davante Adams will definitely not be back. Davante Adams, do not be afraid. If you want him back, don't be afraid when the New York Jets cut Davante Adams. That will be happening regardless of if he comes back or not. Now, it's up to Woody Johnson. As we have no GM, it's up to Woody Johnson whether Aaron Rodgers is going to come back or not. Taking a look at the potential draft capital that the Minnesota Vikings are expecting to receive for JJ McCarthy, according to Adam Schefter as well, he says, if the Vikings decided that they want to trade him, which I don't know that they will, I believe they'll get back everything they put into him and then some. It would be a first-round pick and then some. Shopping McCarthy would also allow the Vikings to recoup some of the assets that they gave up last year as part of their maneuvering to select him. They currently have just 3 picks in the 2025 NFL Draft, with their first-round pick being their only selection in the first 4 rounds. So, this is a team that could be motivated to pick up extra draft capital if they decide that they're going to stick with Sam Darnold. like I mentioned before, they spent the 10th overall pick on JJ McCarthy in last year's draft. So if we were going to be sending a trade offer for JJ McCarthy, it would start with that 7th overall pick. The question is, do you want to send that pick for JJ McCarthy? And the answer to that question is, if you believe in JJ McCarthy, you send that in a heartbeat. You have to send that in a heartbeat because there isn't a better option for another quarterback. Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders have massive red flags on them. Cam Ward being his turnover problem, Shedeur Sanders being his sack-taking problem. So if the New York Jets were to pick up one of those quarterbacks, it would also cost us our first-round pick and more because we would have to trade up into the first round. That's the more. And then we would have to use the pick, which would be the first-round pick. So JJ McCarthy would be about the same price as one of these other quarterbacks, but he would be younger. He would have more potential, seeing how his arm talent is better than Shedeur Sanders, and he's more athletic than both of those guys combined. I would say that Cam Ward does have a more flexible arm, potentially a more powerful arm, but Cam Ward is going to turn to Jameis Winston. He just throws horrible picks, and that interception problem usually does not turn around in the NFL. So Sam Darnold right now was not expected to be the Vikings starting quarterback. He was supposed to start the year, and then JJ McCarthy was going to take over by week 11 or later, or maybe not at all. The point being, Sam Darnold has led them to a 14-win season, so the Minnesota Vikings are thinking about trading this pick so they can get a player that can help the team. They are really lacking at corner, and this is a really strong draft for cornerbacks. So if they picked up the 7th overall pick for JJ McCarthy, there is a high likelihood that if they decide to go with Sam Darnold long-term meaning he's only 27, so they could sign him to a 5-year deal if they wanted to because he's playing really well. They could use our pick on Will Johnson, and then they would have, of course, Sam Darnold playing really well, and then potentially a really high-level cornerback as well, playing defense for the Minnesota Vikings, and they could hopefully take down what looks like the best team in football, the Detroit Lions, when they're fully healthy. This year, of course, they're not, but even without Aiden Hutchinson, that team has been absurd. And seeing where they were a couple of years ago, I'm a little bit jealous, hoping that our next head coach is going to be able to take over and just bring the Jets to prominence, just like Dan Campbell did with the Lions. But talking about the head coach for one more second, yesterday, college football, Ohio State blew out Oregon, meaning that Ohio State job is definitely not going to be opening up. So that makes it marginally more likely that Mike Vrabel is going to be able to come to the New York Jets and be our head coach. Ben Johnson is interested in the Chicago Bears head coaching job. Last year, he wasn't interested in any head coaching jobs, combined with Caleb Williams is on that team. So it seems like it's written in the stars that Ben Johnson will be the Detroit Lions head coach next season. So unfortunately, it does look like he's off the table for us. But every single day, Mike Vrabel becomes more and more likely as the New York Jets head coach. And if Mike Vrabel is your pick for the New York Jets future head coach, you can feel pretty good about that because the things that need to happen with Vrabel are happening. The things that the Jets could not control. Now, what they need to do now is they got to show that they are a strong organization that deserves a good head coach like a Mike Vrabel. We know he's going to talk to Bill Belichick and ask Belichick what he thinks of the New York Jets organization. Belichick is probably not going to have a lot of good things to say, but we're going to see what happens. It all comes down to how Woody Johnson handles his interview with Mike Vrabel. We know he pissed off Bill Belichick in the interview all those years ago. Hopefully he does not piss off Mike Vrabel as well. But guys, please leave in the comments whether JJ McCarthy for our 7th round pick is a trade that you are interested in seeing happening. I hope you guys enjoy your new year. Please like the video if you enjoyed. Please hit the subscribe button if you want to help me out a little bit. And as always, go Jets.